It is the case. One game has nothing to do with the next. It's all going to come down to Sunday's Game 7. We're on the air at 2:30 with an hour-long pregame show, game at 3:30, hour-long postgame show after Game 7. And all eyes will obviously be on Josh Hart. Got hurt tonight. Knicks say it's abdominal soreness. And needless to say, they're going to have him on Sunday.
Yeah, when Josh Hart got hurt, you could just see the Knicks play with heart. That's what they do. Heart, determination, effort. Those are a big part of what they do because they are so injured. That's why they've even gotten to a Game 7. When you lose a guy like that, you could see it take a lot out of the team. But this team was missing a lot of heart in this game, and it was shocking because of how they played in Game 5 and surprising. But you always want to credit the opponent, and you have to credit. It took them almost all series. But Rick Carlisle finally realized that the Knicks don't have a matchup for Pascal Siakam in the paint. They have no one to really guard him. It was stunning in Game 5. They didn't really feed him and go to him and isolate him. In this game, they did. And he scored at will against whoever was guarding him. And that set the tone and set the pace. But there was a definite something missing from the Knicks when it comes to the 50-50 balls and the effort plays that a couple of times in this game turned the game, especially early in the third quarter.
Knicks actually were up after the first quarter. For the first time in his career, however, Jalen Brunson missed 11 shots in a row. It happened in the first half. That kind of tilted things in the Pacers' favor.
That was the first one.
Obviously, the Pacers were up by 10 at the half. And when you really look at it, Knicks really were never able to bounce back after that second quarter.
Yeah, well, they did. Like I said, they started that third quarter. Like I really felt like being down 10 wasn't a bad place to be despite the 17-5, despite the fact that Jalen Brunson suddenly went into freeze mode, something we've never seen from him. That was the worst shooting quarter that he had in his playoff career. So you never saw that. But you start the quarter with a technical foul that you take, you make that. 2 quick buckets, now all of a sudden that 10-point lead is in half, it's 5. And you would think here's some momentum. But you come out of a timeout, and now you didn't get to that loose ball. You get an open 3 here, and Nembhard knocks that down. You cannot give up threes. And then again, ball movement, and then Halliburton just catches that one well off the 3-point line. And now all of a sudden, what was 5 is 11. And it felt like that's when the shoulders slumped, and the Knicks felt like they just weren't going to be in it the rest of the way. And the Pacers, a very good front-running team, play excellent at home. They have not only won every game in the playoffs at home, they've won 11 straight games at home going back to the regular season. They are just a great home team, and they feed off of being at home, playing in front of the home crowd, much like the Knicks do at the Garden. But that was it, what we saw there at the beginning of these highlights. This is now just icing on the cake. There's Halliburton talking his smack like he does. TJ McConnell, somebody might want to stop the ball. They don't. McConnell gets up and says, what did you say about me? That moment after the timeout, 2 loose balls, didn't get them. They knocked down threes, emblematic of this game.
And after that, Pacers totally in control. Look at the rebounding. It's been amazing. Every time the Knicks have been out-rebounded in the postseason, they've lost. Every time they've outboarded the opposition, they've won. And I mentioned the points in the paint. Look at that disparity. 62 for the Pacers, 38 for the Knicks.
Yeah, 40 at the half for the Pacers out of that 62.
And it makes you wonder where this was in Game 5, as you pointed out. Because Siakam, no matter who the Knicks put on him, has a major advantage. If you go Hartenstein on Siakam, then Miles Turner's got a huge edge on who's ever guarding him.
There's a lot of different things that happened here. Hartenstein wasn't really in the paint that much. He wasn't really active on the boards. And the Pacers, they collectively went after every rebound possible. And I go back to the Siakam thing. Normally, Rick Carlisle takes Siakam out 6 minutes into the game. That's just clockwork, what he does. He didn't do it this time. Played him a majority of that first quarter. His length was different. He just kept the ball alive with his length, with his extra effort. And you just saw the Pacers, who were challenged by their head coach to play tougher, to play harder, to meet the level of this Knicks team that plays so hard. So they had it in their heads. They were hearing it for 2 days. We talked about the 2 days off between games, the rest factor for the Knicks, but also for the Pacers. It was the frustration factor. They had to hear it day in, day out. They had to read about it. They had to talk about it. They had to be asked about it. So they were sick and tired of it by the time this game started. And you could just see just extra effort there. Getting the ball to your next teammate if you can't hold on to it. Anytime the ball was on the floor, it seemed like the Pacers made sure they got a hand on it. And Pascal Siakam made sure that every time he touched the basketball, he was going green light. mid-range mastery in this game for Pascal Siakam. And as I say, Josh Hart with that abdominal injury, he was supposed to guard him. He was already going to be undersized in that matchup, but they got away with it in Game 5. They've gotten away with it for some of this series, but Rick Carlisle wasn't going to let them get away with it in this game. They went to him, they kept feeding him, and that was the difference in this game at the start.
All right, so that's really what it boiled down to. Siakam's ability and the Pacers' dominance inside. Tremendous balance. We have Siakam, Turner, Halliburton, Nebhard, and McConnell all in double figures. And don't forget about OG Toppin. He went for 11. So you got McConnell with 15 and Toppin with 11. Both those guys off the bench. And that really helped things in that really important second quarter for the Pacers.
Yeah, absolutely. McConnell was a difference maker again, where he wasn't as much in Game 5, where he was somebody the Knicks were picking on. But in this game, he came in and he just kept going downhill. And that's the frustrating part here. I'm sure so many people were watching at home and they were saying, stay in front of him. And there's Toppin at his best. He gets around you on a curl like that. You can't let him get free to the rim. I thought Isaiah Jackson, which we saw him in the first couple of games of this playoff series, making a difference off the bench. He had a live body. He was active. See, stuff like this, that's them having better energy than you. That's McConnell just playing faster and harder than you. And then Isaiah Jackson, that's the mismatches that they kept finding. That time Isaiah Jackson was in the paint against Jalen Brunson, and he just took it. How about this highlight film dunk over Isaiah Hartenstein for Obi Toppin? Bench players play better at home. We know that it generally is what happens. They certainly did in this game. The Pacers answered the bell. They were challenged for 2 games. They were embarrassed in Game 5. They showed up at home. Now, will they show up on the road in Game 7?
So odd. 3 straight blowouts. The home team has won.
Look at today's NBA.
Yeah.
Look at the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
We're seeing blowouts in a lot of different series. It is suddenly becoming a common thing, which is strange. The three-point ball has a lot to do with it, but not for the Knicks. The series they have with the Sixers, the first 3 games of this series were grinders. The next 3 games of this series were blowouts, one way or another. Game 7, got to hold on to your hats, because usually Game 7s are not blowouts.
And let's show everyone what happened to Josh Hart. Kind of difficult to determine what happened. The Knicks are calling it abdominal soreness. But, Alan, it happened on this sequence right there in the first half.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It's hard to see.
And then
right
after this sequence, a little bit later, Hart in clear discomfort. And basically when he played the rest of the way, he was in pain and ultimately finished the night in the locker room.
Yeah, core issue is essentially what that is. And anybody that's an athlete understands, you see there the tape all over it. And you can tell he's in pain. That Josh Hart's not a type of guy that shows pain. He's a tough guy. So for him to take himself out of games, for him to do that kind of thing, that shows you it was something pretty serious that was bothering him. He's an energy and effort guy. And when he's not going after rebounds with 2 hands and you don't see him really running. How about one time on the break? Normally he's a fast break unto himself. He finishes at the rim so well and breaks. He peeled back and passed
gave it up, yep.
Which, again, tells you he's compromised. Quick turnaround for Game 7, not a lot of time to recover. Major concern, as the Knicks are a team that has already endured enough injuries, they can't possibly deal with another, especially somebody that is so critical to how they play and how hard they play. He sets the emotional tone for this team. To not have him at full capacity is devastating.
And OG Anunoby misses 4th straight game with that sore hammy. No word on what his status is going to be for Sunday's Game 7.